We are back again to do another madness with Ryan. I know you guys love him, so we want to feed you guys whatever you guys want. This is what the channel will provide. And today it's going to be all about Kai Havertz, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. Here we go, back again on the other side of the coin.
Welcome back to the other side of the coin, ladies and gentlemen. My man Ryan, how you doing?
I'm good. We got a good performance from Chelsea yesterday.
Yeah.
It was a direct test after Crystal Palace, who set up in a 4-2-3-1. And then Lille came back with that same setup, similar press, similar tactics. And it was really a chance for Chelsea to show, did you learn your lesson? Did you come prepared? And you know what? I'm happy to say that they did. And that's what I'm going to show today.
No, absolutely. I mean, just before we get into that, it's an interesting point that you brought on. Do you remember, Ryan, last time we got together and we were talking about the blueprint to frustrate Chelsea and getting the best out of a scenario is park the bus, 5 at the back, 4, 1, whatever, and try and hit us on the counter. And I feel like that is a big way to frustrate Chelsea because we're not the best when it comes to low blocks and creating. Do you feel, Ryan, as great as Lille did, I thought Lille was fantastic the way they pressed, how aggressive they were with the ball as well, progressive passing. They didn't create any clear-cut chances, but then come to Stamford Bridge to just hang back. Do you feel maybe in some way, I mean, it's encouraging to see an opposition do that, but do you feel it was a bit naive from them?
No, I don't think that it was naive from. I think the best way to hit Chelsea is to do what Palmeiras did or Crystal Palace did. Really park the bus with a mid to low block. But Lille actually came out and was very high pressing and really reminded me of like a Bundesliga team. It didn't seem like a French team to me. But they came out really pressing high, and Chelsea did really well to play out of that press. They passed the ball really quickly. They got their tactics in order. Everybody knew what they wanted to do.
Kante was so instrumental to that, Ryan. He was so instrumental winning balls and then driving through their midfield.
Yeah, it was really good from Chelsea because, we always talk about numerical advantages, how that helps. But at the end of the day, if you don't move that ball quickly with intent and know what you're going to do, you could have all the numbers you want. You still won't progress play. And this time, it was tight for us, and we did have an intent. We did look like we knew what we wanted to do before that whistle blew.
Yeah.
And that's something that we called and begged for last time. And, we got to see kind of Chelsea of last season in attack. But the defense was a bit different this time. And I'll get into that later too, which I found was interesting. But I'll get into that later.
100%. All right, let's get straight into this. Let's not keep our viewers waiting for too long. Let's talk about, I mean, we obviously you've just mentioned that it was Chelsea back to their old ways from last season. We dropped Romelu Lukaku, brought back Kai Havertz, and everything. Not only I felt like the players wanted to prove a point that they could do a job without Lukaku, a lot better job than Lukaku, but it was just so refreshing to see the old Chelsea of last season back, especially in the Champions League, also in the Premier League as well. We were just a bit unlucky last season, obviously, with our finishing. Even in this match against Lille, we probably should have scored 4. I sort of made a mental count on that. But I guess the best part was, Ryan, the fact that how fluid we looked again up front. We didn't look slow. As you said, we pressed high. We had a lot of intensity. We passed quick as well. What were some of the observations for you, I suppose, changes that you saw from basically the Palace game to this game? Not only obviously the personnel, but what made us a lot more dynamic, I suppose, from your perspective?
Well, that's a good question. I think that it really has to do with the intent Chelsea showed from minute one. the intent Chelsea showed us that they were going to play through wide overloads and not just 4-man wide overloads like this and then progress play. No, they actually showed a lot of intent to get as much players wide as possible, and that is due mainly due to the fact of how flexible Kai Havertz is for us. He was able to join in on that wide overload, which allowed Pulisic to step in into striker positions, Alonso to keep the weight as a winger. And what you see here is now that you have probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players overloaded one half of the pitch. This really facilitates that one-touch quick football because, as we said last week, we wanted numbers in close proximity to each other to facilitate quick combinations play
100,
and
100, yeah.
numerical advantages. And having Kai and Pulisic do that, it really reminded me of how teams like Ajax back in the day played, with a striker like Tadic going to the wing and then Neres coming in, Van der Beek going into striker positions, and it really overloaded that side. But that I think that was one of the main difference that we saw, was that we had an intent to build this this wide overload, but we also had that mindfulness to know that the switch of play was on. And not only the switch of play to wide areas through Alonso, but what we saw is many times we switched plays centrally for a Kante and a Pulisic to really get that ball in central areas and unleash.
100%.
So I think that was, long story short, before I get into tactics, that was the main difference what I've seen in our approach.
No, 100%. The way you've just demonstrated that is exactly what we've seen as well. The close proximity. Let's now talk tactically, and we'll talk about the defensive side of things, because you mentioned that you saw something different defensively as well. Why? I really want to hear from you now about this particular topic. Why is it that when we have Lukaku, we don't tend to have that close proximity? But as soon as Kai Havertz goes up there, everyone seems to understand and they're in sync. And I just want to quickly bring up a particular tweet. Just bear with me one second. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the latest, and this is, legitimate. Like, this is a quote, apparently, well, not a quote. Like, this is something that Thomas Tuchel said that he feels Chelsea teams function better when Kai Havertz is leading the line. I mean, if that's not having a dig at Lukaku, I don't know what is. But I want to ask you, Ryan, and maybe you can sort of explain from a punditry or tactical point, what's going on? How come Lukaku is not being able to do the things that Kai was able to do, I suppose, against Liverpool?
No, I was really thinking about this. I've been in discussion about this lately, and we all know that first interview with Lukaku where he said that he's a multi-dimensional striker. He's not only someone who could, play
I love
with his
that word,
back
bro.
to.
Multi-dimensional, multifaceted. Oh, it's multi-bullshit. How about that?
Yeah, he's not only someone who, plays with his back towards goal, stays in one position. And what I really think it has to do with, I believe, partly has to do with mental attributes. Because I believe that when he plays against high lines, when he drops deep, even for Chelsea, when we play against high lines, he is willing to drop deep and do that work. He works really hard. He goes to the wing. He goes on the right side. He goes centrally. He drops into midfield. He works really hard against high lines, and he's able to link play. And that's when he did really well against Aston Villa.
Aston Villa. Yep.
Yeah. But I think is that, keep in mind what I said there and highlight that, where he's able to play in large spaces and really play to his strengths. When he plays against, let me just set it up here, right? And I just want you to pretend Kai is Lukaku.
Yeah.
Right? So now when he plays against a line of two, right? Two defensive lines, instead of dropping into massive space, this time what he would have to do if he really wants to drop and help and build up, he would have to drop between the lines, right? When he drops into these zones between the lines, whatever how wide it is, There is
Mm-hmm.
very little space to operate within. And I think that he shies away from that responsibility because when he operates in little space, he's more likely to get exposed for his weaknesses. I
His
think
first touch.
he's not really he can't really muscle off players and run into space in those areas, which is his strengths. What he has to do there is really play in very tight spaces, be on point with his first touch, be on point with his link up play, be on point with his passing in between the lines, and things like that that he really struggles with. I mean, he's really good when he has large space because his first touch wouldn't really affect him, and he has that speed to make up for a bad first touch in space.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
between the lines, he doesn't, and I really believe that it could be down to that mental factor that he shies away from that responsibility.
That's an interesting, observation that you've had. How, I mean, he's going to come across a lot of teams that's going to be very tight, and he's going to have to operate in tight spaces. Is this something that you perceive, Ryan, that Lukaku can change? Basically, he's in his prime years. I mean, it's not like he's in his development years anymore. Is that something that he can change up, or do you perceive seeing Kai Havertz a lot more now up front, or do you also perceive maybe Kai and Lukaku perhaps joining up? I don't know whether that would help though.
Listen, miss, when I think about getting numerical, you know, abundance up top, right? Getting that support to really facilitate that quick interchanges and attacking play. I think that when we have three central defenders, right, and wing backs who do not really get into such
Yeah,
positions,
yeah.
that it really puts extra responsibility on our striker to then drop between the lines and cover in more attacking midfield positions
Well said, man.
because we don't have the central midfielders to get between the lines. We don't have the fullbacks if we were playing in a 4-3-3 to get up top like wingers. Um, we literally just don't have, for example, if we were playing a four at the back and we had two central defenders, one DM, like how it usually is, right? It would have been a setup kind of like this. We have our wing backs and full backs really high and wide. We have our central midfielders between the lines. We have our wingers. So it wouldn't really call for Lukaku too much to do too much because
Yeah, yeah.
there's already just so much numbers in close proximity to each other. Look at that overload there. There's so much numbers there where Lukaku could do what he needs to do, just be between, and it really could work as an advantage, Miz. If Lukaku is holding two CBs up top, you know how much space that gives your other attackers
Yeah,
to operate with? But the thing is, with Chelsea right now, with two wing backs who cannot attack as much
yeah.
right now because how limited they are, and with three central defenders, and despite Rudiger and Christensen being good at passing, they aren't overlapping centre backs like a Bastoni or Skriniar who joins attack. It really puts pressure on Lukaku to do more than he probably wouldn't have to do in a back four with the right personnel.
Bro, once again, fantastic obs. And this is what I want from you as well, Ryan. I'm pretty sure the viewers watching this, these are the different angles that we're not thinking. As Ryan's just mentioned, Lukaku's probably having to do a lot more because of our deficiencies in the wingbacks area. Now, I want to switch this around a little bit. I want to see what Ryan has to say about this. Ryan, however, when Kai plays, why aren't these deficiencies that are still there as massive as they're seen when Lukaku's starting, obviously?
Can you repeat that question?
So basically, what I'm saying, when Lukaku's up front, we've just stated the deficiencies that we have. Like we don't have the fullbacks that are bombing forward. It's making Lukaku do a lot more work than he probably has to. We don't have those wingers tucking into the half space and whatnot. But whereas when Kai plays, we still have those deficiencies, but they're not. They're not. It's not magnified in that manner. Like our attack seemed very, very strong and potent as opposed
Yeah.
to when Lukaku. Why do you think that's the case? That's what I want to see.
Um,
What you have to sort of explain about that.
Miss, when we think about the context of this game, we have to be very wary because not wary, be aware.
Yeah.
We have to be aware because we need to be aware that Lille had a high press, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though they had a mid line, they had a mid line, a mid back line, they had a high press, right?
Mm,
And in that high press, we were able to basically play to our strengths, which is getting players running into space, right? Very rarely against Lille, we saw that we had to break down like a rigid two lines, 5 and 4, like what happened with Palmeiras and what happens with a
true.
lot of teams. And I
True.
think that even against a 5-4-1, let me just put that there real quick, right? Against a 5-4-1 low block, right?
Mm,
Even if Kai drops and becomes that fluid person, at the end of the day, when you have the likes of a small guy like Pulisic and then say Alonso or something there,
mm,
it could still be not enough to really penetrate
true.
that
True.
those two lines. And we
Mm,
must not forget how much we wanted that target man who could head the ball and score goals. And I
mm,
know a lot of people say players like Jota and Martinez and Salah and all these guys aren't necessarily big number nines, but we need to realize that even though they're not big number nines, they are strikers.
yeah.
And they do find themselves in the right place at the right time to get those headers in. But whereas Pulisic, on the other hand, who is covering for Akai, is not a striker. Alonso is just tall, right?
Mm,
And he gets wide posts, but he isn't going to fulfill that striker role either. So while I understand that when Kai leaves here, it really interests me in what do we really have covering here if we play against a low block? Who is going
yeah.
to be between the center backs when we play against a low block? I don't need a big 6'1" guy, but I need someone who has the movement to manipulate center backs. And I feel
Mm,
that Pulisic, while he does good to cover, sometimes when this overload happens, it will be sufficient when there is plenty space to play with, like against
mm.
Lille, but not sufficient against like a Palmeiras with a 5-4-1.
Basically, what you're saying is Chelsea fans, yes, get excited for what you saw against Lille when Kai played, but also hold your horses because we've not really yet seen that same attack come across a genuine low block team that's gonna frustrate us because as Ryan's saying, even then it may not be enough, and you were gonna have to literally throw more bodies and then try and as Ryan said, manipulate those space and then get in between. Ryan, now I want to talk about the upcoming game against Liverpool, and I feel like this could be another case of a similar kind of style of what Lille did. I know the team is a lot better than Lille, undoubtedly one of the best in Europe, Liverpool. But their gameplay, I feel, would be very similar to what Lille was trying to do. You know, press high up, um, move the ball quick, high intensity. Obviously, they've got a plethora of talent up front. Do you expect Chelsea to perhaps do well again in this particular match with Kai Havertz up front?
Um, it's a hard one, it's really a
Mm.
hard one because I think that, with the injury concerns we have right now, we don't know exactly who we will have available, whether Hudson or Mount will be back, whether Kovacic and Ziyech will be out
Let's
also.
do some hypotheticals. I want to throw you straight into this mix. Let's assume Kovacic and Ziyech are probably not ready, and let's face it, I don't think Callum Hudson-Odoi is going to be thrown into the starting lineup. Mount should be fit enough. Lukaku obviously available. Kai Havertz, Pulisic, Timo Werner. probably going to have to go with Kante, Jorginho. Maybe you could think about Saul, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, and the rest are as per. So now give me your answer based on that assumption of who's sort of available.
Well, I know this is not your preview, but
Hmm.
I wouldn't be on your preview, so I'll just say quickly what's my lineup, right? But I think it's really interesting because I think against Lille, we saw one person in particular struggle with 1v1 runs in behind them, Alonso. Once again, while he is good at some things in his game, 1v1 with those runs in behind, he struggled once again. It had Renato
Yeah.
Sanchez running in behind him, who is predominantly a central midfielder playing at right wing that game. And that's unacceptable for him to be beating Alonso 1v1 and then for him to go against
Just to
Salah.
pause you for a second, just to pause you, just remember the Salah. You got to the Salah. I just want to show you something, um, which you're going to find very, very funny of this 1v1 situation that you're talking about with Marcus Alonso. Just want to bring up because Adam Newson had a very, very here we go. This is what Adam Newson tweeted out on match day. Marcos, yells Thomas Tuchel after the Chelsea wingback lets Jonathan Bamba run off him for the second time. This is what you were talking about, how Renato Sanchez a couple of times went behind him, Jonathan Bamba. I mean, that's a major issue, yeah?
Yeah, it's a major issue, and that's why I had a little lineup that surprised everybody on the byline with yesterday, and I just want to drop it real quick for you to see what you have to say because it's fun because I
Okay.
got a good reaction out of them too.
Okay.
So I'm considering the what we have right now, right? And I know Liverpool's going to play a 4-3-3, right?
Of course. Yep.
But I don't want Chelsea to be in a position where Alonso gets, found out. So I won't have him in my starting lineup this time, right? So I would start with a 4-1-4-1, especially because I would put Jorginho back into the mix, given that Kovacic might not be there, right?
Yep.
So with my 4-1-4-1, I have the idea of having Malang Sarr at left back, right? I have having Rudiger left centre back, Thiago Silva, and an Azpilicueta, right? My one will be Jorginho. Starting with my second line of four, I'll go with left mid. I will go with Pulisic. Left center mid, I will go with Mount. Right center mid, I'll go with Kante. Right mid, I will go with somebody I think will be good on the right, Bimo Werner. Right? And then up top, I will go with Kai Havertz. My thing is that I like this because Sarr gives us a lot more defensive stability.
Of course, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Instead of Alonso. But to match Liverpool's press of a 3 up front, we could... Okay, a 4-1-4-1 is because a 4-1-4-1 gives us a midfield 3, right?
Yeah.
So it allows us to match up to Liverpool's midfield 3 from the get-go. Then to match up to Liverpool's front 3, we could always change to a makeshift back 3 with Sarr left centre back, Rudy, 100%. And then Silva. And then 100%. We could get Pulisic as our left wing back.
Yeah.
And then we could get Aspi going to right wing back and having Timo join Havertz. And then we could have like a 3-5-2. So I think it gives us good flexibility, and it also gives us a dynamism up top to press, to do whatever, to counter attack, to defend. It has everything in that lineup, and it has the least weaknesses in it, and I would go for that.
That's an interesting lineup, man. I really like that. I like the way you've thought about how you wanted Sarr, I suppose, with the ball, 4-1-4-1, and Sarr not being an expressive left-sided fullback, more sort of tucked in or staying in midfield. And then obviously without the ball, it has the ability to have Sarr dropping in as LCB and everyone basically shifting one on the right. So Rudiger would be center of this three CBs, and Thiago Silva as RCB, and then Azpilicueta being the right wing back. Pulisic then drops in as an auxiliary, I suppose, left wing back without the ball. I like that. I really do. But I feel like off the ball, there would need to be a lot of hard work from Pulisic as well, because Sarr on his own won't be always able to just control Salah, and I'm assuming they'll probably have Trent Alexander-Arnold as well on that side.
Yeah, but
you-
imagine Havertz going to the left. You have Havertz, Mount, and Pulisic attacking where Trent isn't. That's gonna be amazing.
Exclusive,
And then
bro.
then Bimo Werner going up to a central position and waiting for those balls in. And then we have Kante roaming forward to encounter. That would be a good counter attack in 5.
You're absolutely bang on, Ryan, bro. Because if they have one distinct disadvantage or a weakness, it's Trent Alexander-Arnold's side, where he will look to come up. And if we can somehow manage to steal the ball and then do the counter and pile on with Havertz on that side, Mount, Pulisic, and then Kante coming in, and then Werner in the middle. It could be tasty. It could be tasty. All right,
We don't have to defend in a 5-3-2. Also, we can defend in a 4-5-1, which we do really well too.
Yeah.
So we still have that double protection of Pulisic pace against like Trent or whatever, and Sarr's defensive capability. So it's good, I think. But we'll see. Maybe our boy Romelu will be there, scoring goals, heading in balls, holding play.
Just to wrap.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
that
go on,
video
bro.
where he said, before we wrap up, remember he said this in that training video in September. I came here to show you all how to score goals. But he said that in a training video in Chelsea. So let's see.
Let's see, bro. Let's see. Just to wrap things up, I want to ask you, Kai Havertz going to pose a lot of threat for Liverpool?
Yeah, against a high line, yeah, he would be everywhere. I just want to big him up for 30 seconds before we wrap up.
Go for
This
it, bro.
guy,
Go for it.
I said it and I refer it. You know how I said Mount is the Azpilicueta of our attack? Well, I think that Kai Havertz is the Kante of our attack. That guy glides all over the pitch. One minute he's left mid, one minute he's striker, 1 minute he's right mid, 1 minute he's central midfield.
He's
everywhere in a blink of an eye, and he's really an asset to us.
He doesn't seem to be tired as well, Ryan. Like I don't see him gasping for air and sweating badly. He seems like it's just another day in the office. Do you know what I mean?
Nah, I really like him in that position as opposed to somebody being overly creative like a Bernardo Silva or De Bruyne. I think that false nine role really suits him well. Like on the brink of that last line of defense, really suits him.
No, brilliant. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I suppose the tactical side of utilizing Kai. Tactical side of the coin, yes. And how there was some important info that's been provided, knowledge that's been provided by Ryan in terms of Lukaku, the pockets of space, not having efficient fullbacks. Hope you guys have enjoyed this and taken all that in, moving into the upcoming matches to see if we can notice some of those things live in the match as well. Ryan, do you want to let us know anything that's upcoming that we should be sort of keeping our eyes open from your side of things?
Yeah, well, if you notice, there's no more Tuchel picture and carefree tactics here from the last video. I changed now, that I'm really aiming to start writing about more leagues and writing for more websites, etc. So if you want to check out the analysis I do right now, I write on Serie A, Bundesliga, the Champions League. In addition to Chelsea analysis, you could check out that at Ryan Gunnis on Twitter. Give it a follow if you already haven't. And yeah, that's all.
Brilliant, Ryan. Can we ever expect you in a watch along, perhaps one of these days? Maybe not a Chelsea game, but a league of your choice, a team of your choice. Maybe we can do a watch along. We'll watch the match together.
Okay, I'll check all the leagues and see what good matches they have, and I want to invite you to see certain managers or players that I really am a fan of, and you'll understand why. So hopefully they don't let me down on that one match. But yeah, that'll be so much fun actually. So how do you
Let's
do
do
watch
it.
alongs though? Like, do you share like I
So-
never know how that works out.
So
Technically.
check out one of our recent. I'm sure you can just go to my YouTube site and you'll see the recent one. Basically, what we do is we have the live score visual in the middle, which shows where the play is going, because live score has the ability to show where the attack or what's happening, in terms of the team play. And then we've got our boxes on the side where we watch the match together.
Oh.
We basically comment. We comment
So
on
we see the match together.
Yeah, so we may need to sync the timing together. So whatever stream you got, whatever stream I have, we'll sync it to be as close as possible, and then we watch the match together and we comment. And the live chat loves that, man.
That's a really interesting one. Okay, I will look at the calendar. That'll be fun,
It'll be
I think it has
massively
some big
fun.
matches coming up. So, hey, it
Yeah.
have any international breaks coming up by chance? Do you know of?
Yeah, I think so. In March, I think there is an international break coming up in March. So, yeah, it'll be loads of fun to have you in a watch along. I think the live chat would love it as well. They're always buzzing in the watch alongs. The watch alongs are very different. It's interesting because you're watching it live. So
it
it's
has
quite interesting.
Lazio and Napoli this weekend. That's a huge match,
Let's do it. Why not? Let's do Lazio and Napoli. Let's watch it. I think
Lazio
the
and
fans
Napoli
will.
on Sunday. Yeah.
I think the fans would love that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Until next time, see ya.